And so when your bowel shut down, you would go into acute dehydration syndrome. And it was this acute dehydration syndrome that created all the problems. And so I went through every pill, potion, tablet, water machine, water ionizer, filter, vortex, you name it. I'd been through all of them. And it was insane. Her second year, like I said, she had 100 hours a week of home health care, and it was her third year that she went into failure to thrive. And she wasn't gaining any weight. She wasn't digesting fats. She wasn't digesting proteins. They weren't breaking down. And they're like, we don't know what to do. And this lady, a patient of mine, came in, and she starts giving me the typical, I hate to say rhetoric, but, oh, pH water will fix everything. Oh, it's this. And my water machine can save her life. And it just couldn't. Because I've already tried everything. And so long story short, after about 6 weeks, we got when the last test results came in, we got the news, and I ended up, you need something? And it ended up that we ended up trying the water. And what really happened was the doctor, I literally wrote on the whiteboard that y'all have seen, and I was just taking notes from the doctor, and the patient was laying on the table. And she literally just said, Dr. Michael, Skylar doesn't have to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water. Right. And I looked at her like jaw drop. I was really ready to cuss her out. And that still small voice was like God just saying, just shut up and try the water. And so I said, you know what? Bring me some of your water. I'll try it. I'll give it to her, and then I'll run a test, these exact tests in a month, and I'll prove to you it doesn't work. She was like, okay. And so the rest is kind of the history. I mean, she brought the water in. When we got home, I told Abigail about the results, and we kind of cried a little bit, and then started her on the water. And it wasn't like we did anything massive. It was just like, here's 9.0, 9.5 water. Here's a jug. We put it in her sippy cup. But within 4 days, like 60, 70, 80% of her symptoms had started to reverse, and she was hydrating, and she wasn't crying, and it started to clear the C. diff. And I was like, well, that's crazy. And so then I'm like, so Amy, yeah, we're seeing some clinical changes, and we'd like to try some more water. Is it working? Well, we're seeing some significant changes. Can I try? Is it working? Yes, it's working. I'm eating crow, and I need water to wash it down. Can I have more water? And so she brought me a couple gallons, and Jackie actually was like, oh, that's cool. I'll drink some. And the next thing you know, it kind of clicked with her headaches. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. And we were about 10 days out. And the next thing you know, Skylar screams bloody murder and in panic because there's a snake in the potty. And what it ended up being was that she'd had her first solid bowel movement. Wow. And so I was like aghast. And so I did what every good parent is. I took the camera, I took a picture, sent it to my wife, and said, I'm buying a machine. I didn't buy it for the science. I didn't buy it for the research. I literally did it because my daughter pooped. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And then within 6 months, she was off feeding ports. And, I set out to go, all right, people need to know this water is different. And I still didn't even know what I know now. I was just like, okay, there's something different. The way it breaks it apart, A plus B equals Z. Like, it didn't make sense, but it worked. And so I set out to put the pieces together and create a format. In fact, we've got a new healthcare providers manual that we're getting ready to launch. We'll give your healthcare providers a discount here at the end if they want to use it. But, it's got all the clinical research. It doesn't talk so much about Enagic as it's the science of electrolyzed reduced water and what makes it so different and how you can help people and how you can educate people and, what we use it. Because I don't build like your traditional team. I'm more like, I put a chiropractor in, we educate patients. We put a chiropractor in, we educate patients. We put a naturopath in, we educate patients. So it's a little bit different for us. We go a little bit more of a durable medical, but the change was just phenomenal. And so that was
Can I ask you, Dr. Michael, why were you so skeptical at the beginning towards Kangen?
I had tried 8 different, it was like the 8th water machine that I'd tried.
Ionizers?
Yeah, all of them. I mean, I could list them, but I don't want the liability. I mean, it was just like right down the line.
Right.
And the one that I actually had at the time, the plates had flaked off and there was a bunch of mold in the line. And so all my kids got sick. So I was one of those strong opponents of alkaline ionized water. And again, alkaline ionized water is not the same as electrically reduced water. It's very different. Most of y'all don't know this, but if you take your filter out of your machine and put your cleaning cartridge in, it's still going to change the pH. It's still going to change the water. It has nothing to do with the filter. And and every other unit on the market has to have the filter because that's where the minerals are. So
if you take the minerals from those machines, you take the filter out from those machines, it's not going to work, right?
It doesn't work right at all. And even still, because they're so low powered, it won't hold the charge. If you were to take any of the competitor plates and put them in our machine, you would actually melt the plate. They always talk about square
inches. Yeah.
Square inches. But if it's a big square, all things being equal, but one is twice as thick, you can hit it with twice the amount of current.
Right.
The fact is our plates are 3 times thicker and twice as large. So you can get a lot of current through those. And that's actually what creates the stable water ionization.
Right. So in other words, our machines are built for a workhorse production, right?
It's basically what I call a lightning strike in a box.
Okay.
It's the equivalent of having an electrical discharge hit the lake or an ocean, and it breaks those bonds.
Right. Do you by any chance have the photo of the before and after of Skylar?
Oh, I've got a whole PowerPoint if you want me to switch to it.
Yeah, maybe if you can. Do a share screen over there. You can see it. Guys, you should really pay your attention and look at this. This is really, really amazing. I call this one of those amazing personal sharing from a.
I actually got to interview Dr. Phil back in Thanksgiving last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was cool.
Okay.
Any which way, so there's the picture of Skylar. Everything that was supposed to be inside was on the outside is in that tube.
Wow.
This is the hydrated version and this is the dehydrated version. There was about 4 hours between these two pictures.
Okay. When you said hydrated, what do you mean by hydrated?
She had normal volume. She was doing well. Her bowel hadn't shut down. When her bowel shut down, she would start to dehydrate rapidly.
So it just drops very quickly, right?
Yeah, part of the reason that we had so much healthcare is we had to weigh her every hour, all day long. In case the bowel shut down, we had to rush to the emergency room. And it's kind of crazy when they say, don't wait for the EMTs, just get in the car, go fast, call 911 and tell them you need an escort to the hospital.
Gosh. And how long have you have to go through this so-called journey of this, off and on emergency kind of case?
I mean, she was 3.5 when we discovered the water, and she was 4 when we removed the Mickey button. It was a while.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, and so when we did it, we were like, wait a second, you've got all these different types of waters. What's going on here? Tap water bottle, RO water is what they use in most hospitals because it's so sterile. It's also the most acidic. And so you really run into those things. And, people talk about drinking bleach and that stuff, but when you look at how much chlorine is in municipal water supplies, it's scary.
Right.
We use it to wash our fruits and veggies. On the pH scale, you know, if you think about your body as a aquarium, you'll see that it's a very different thing in the fact that nobody in their right mind would pour a 2 liter of Sprite into that. Oh, let's just top it off with a little vodka. It'd kill all the fish. It'd kill the coral. And yet we have the same filtration, oxygen. And so just imagine what that looks like.
Gosh.
That's literally what people look like on the inside when they drink all that garbage. They don't think of it as like, you mean I can get mold in there? Yeah. And that's what makes electrolyzed reduced water better is, like I said, it was a miracle before our eyes in the fact that 80% of her symptoms seemed to just significantly improve within days. 10 days of bowel movement, 6 months, we removed the port. Like you just don't, that just doesn't happen. And there's Skylar.
Look at that. Amazing.
She likes to go on the boat, but she doesn't necessarily want to be on the water. She does love the tube, the floaty tube.
Okay.
So,
Dr. Michael, before you go on, Dr. Michael, can I just ask you one question? In her case, all her inner thing was outside, right? So
yep.
how did Kangen water with its properties, how did it actually reverse her symptom back to normal? Are you able to give us a light in that area?
Well, so what happens is they actually got them all tucked in surgically, but they had massive amounts of inflammation, and it was literally an electric potential. When we talk about cancer and electrolyzed reduced water, basically what happened is the mitochondria shuts down and there's no energy, so it burns sugar. Well, when you're using electrically charged water with enough oxygen to reactivate the mitochondria, your energy levels skyrocket.
Right.
So you add in the ability to start healing, and then the other component of it is the hydroxide ion, which flushes all the inflammatory enzymes, flushes all the tissues, detoxes all the cellular matrix. So on the one hand, she was losing all the toxicity that she had. She was increasing her energy levels, and it allowed the body to heal itself. I would love to tell you that there's some great magic motion. The reality is the water gives you oxygen, hydrogen, and hydroxide with an electrically charged water molecule that can actually get into your cells. There's no real other magic. It just seems like it's like, wow. No, it's
yeah.
And
I mean, the first time when I heard it is magic to me, magic.
It's Harry Potter all the way for me. It's the Jedi water, if anything.
Yeah.
So, and people talk about it and they say, well, it can't be good for you because, water doesn't get electrocuted. And I'm like, no, technically all the water on the planet gets electrocuted. Right. That's what happens when lightning strikes lakes and oceans. They just put it in a box that was small enough to put on your countertop.
Right.
And this is answering your question. It's called actually the dissociation of water. And so what happens is you have a water molecule here and it zaps it and it breaks it apart. So you get your hydrogen, your oxygen, your hydroxide, and it restructures it with a high charge.
Okay.
And then this was what we were just talking about. So here's a cell. That's what's called an aquaporin. That's the fastest way to hydrate. If you have low quality water, you can't hydrate. The reason people were getting water only through the bowel is because they had poor digestion and a leaky gut. And that's what actually fixed it. So then what happens here is when the cells compress, they excrete CO2 and toxins. That's why it needs that charge, because it works like a pump. Out with the bad, in with the good. Out with the bad, in with the good. And so that's literally what's going on. And so if you realize that oxygen and nutrition are going in and you're getting rid of CO2 and toxins, your buffering stays in place. Overly scientific, but the molecular hydrogen is actually what charges the membrane. You get oxygen here. You've got your free electrons here in the Krebs cycle to create energy, and You can get rid of the, I mean, you can get as technical as you want, but that's why if you look at that part of having the energy and the mitochondria working, it's like getting 36 gallons of gas, but if it shuts down, you only get 4.
Oh, okay.
You're actually getting 900% more energy. I'll have another drink at that too. I've been drinking Ukon tea.
Yeah. Cheers.
And that's really what makes it different is the electrical charge. Most of the other units that we were just talking about, like with the filters and whatnot, they literally add, I hate to say chemicals because they're minerals, but they're usually insoluble, and they really build up in the tissues and they create a lot of problems. That's all your bottled waters, even your RO machines where they have a remineralizer. You got to be really, really careful because builds up in the kidneys, the heart, and the cardiovascular. When you have an electrolyzed reduced water machine, it just blows that water molecule apart, and you have the components, so you're not doing any damage. Doesn't affect stomach acid. Charge only lasts for 3 or 4 days, so it's not like it's going to build up in your system. And so there's really isn't any clinical research that says, hey, this is a bad thing. Everyday uses, we've got it for hydration, getting the good stuff in, the bad stuff out, carries more oxygen, removes more CO2. I don't know if you can see over there, but there's pesticides that were on the fruits and veggies there. And that's what actually comes off from the pesticide standpoint when you use the 11.5. Ours is the only water machine that produces strong 11.5 because what happens is when you make hypochlorous acid, which is the 2.5, you get HOCl, but you get HNA, which is a mild solvent that breaks down petroleum bases. And all of your pesticides are based on petroleum, so they don't wash off in the rain. So, you can use it for cleaning. I've got all the clinical research that everybody wishes they had. I can make claims that aren't claimed because I've got the lab reports, but we use it for E. coli, we use it for staph, MRSA, strep, Kripke, and it's completely biodegradable. In our new Dr. Michael Explained series, they've actually I bought one of the several $1,000 ATP meters, and I swab the counter and spray it with a 2.5, and it comes back surgical grade sterile. So from a clinical standpoint, because Dr. Michael, when we teach doctors,
you need some hydration, bro.
It got really humid all of a sudden. Anyways, so while electrolyzed reduced water for us felt like a cure, it absolutely wasn't. It was the missing piece. Anybody that is in a healthcare crisis, you're 72% water. And so if you take the healthiest person and the sickest person, you can put them on an equal playing field just by changing their water. And I talk to chiropractors. I've brought on a lot of naturopaths, a lot of physicians, a lot of healthcare providers lately. And I'm like, cool, you did this, and that's amazing. That's incredible. So you're doing a really good job with a 28% of your patient that's not water. What are you doing with the 72% that is? And they go, I never thought about it that way. And so when you put the best water in, you have the best potential for healing. There's a lot of clinical research, oxidative stress, neurology, anti-aging, diabetes, free radicals. Hypochlorous acid for sterilization is absolutely phenomenal. We've been using it in wound care in hospitals for years. It's one of my lab reports. And like I said, so there are other electrolyzed reduced water machines on the market. They're just, in my opinion, not as good. And we're the only one that produces hypochlorous acid. Now that's the 2.5 button, and it works on just about anything and everything. When you look at Enagic as a company, though, they've got a 40-year history. they're the only one that is actually what's called an OEM. And to be an OEM means you have 100% control of the quality of the products, the quality of the wires, the quality of the resistors, the filters, every single piece isn't just bidded out to the lowest bidder. It costs more because it actually costs more.
Yeah.
And there's a control factor, and that's why we've won all the water certifications. We're called the category king. It's kind of like everybody else and Enagic. But really our company has the only one that produces the strong 11, the strong 2.5. And it just, that gives it a lot more diversity in use. Here's some of the plate things that you were talking about. See all the corrosion here?
Right.
That's actually where the plates got scorched because they got too hot, mold in the lines. So when you start, I took apart all of the competitor stuff. And I'm like, I mean, that was going into my kids. I mean, me is one thing, but that was going into my kids.
Right.
And so it was like, oh my gosh. And so quality really becomes a part.
Yeah.
Big fan of the K8. It produces the highest ORP. It has the hypochlorous acid. It has the strong cleaning water. It removes pesticides. It works as a degreaser. It just does it all. I don't know if you know much about the Anespa. I'm sure you use one.
Yes,
but
we do.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not realize our shower unit is the only one in the world.
Wow. Please tell us more.
So these tufa minerals that come out of the Japanese hot springs,
right?
Did you know that they are regulated by the Ministry of Health? And they're actually labeled as a medical cure in the Japanese journals. Like if you have this health condition, you go soak in these hot tubs.
Wow.
The largest.
Is that right? I didn't know about it. Amazing.
You're welcome. I try to raise the bar, man.
Guys, okay. Guys, do y'all know that this thing happens in Japan? If you are same like me, you don't know, just give me a 2. Just write a 2, press a 2 there. I don't know about this. Amazing. See, look, everybody doesn't know. This is great stuff, bro. I don't know.
I told you, we're leveling up. It's 2020. I got all the hindsight now, bro.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
And so what happens is, like if you have eczema, psoriasis, skin conditions, cancers, arthritis, they say you need to go to these hot springs. Well, the most powerful hot spring they have is in Hokkaido. And if you actually type in Hokkaido hot spring, they'll say that this is the hot spring by which all other hot springs are judged. The radium tufa minerals there have more concentrates than anywhere else in the world. So it's heavily regulated. And it's also where Mr. Oshira bought the mineral rights to buy the tufa minerals that go into our shower unit. Nobody else in the world does that. But game over.
So are you saying, Dr. Michaels, the thing that is making that so-called miracle effect is the stones that are inside the Anespa?
The only ones it's the only machine that does it. And so, like I said, that's all regulated. Now, is it the same high quality as soaking in? No, because that's like a milk bath almost, but you're getting the same exact effects.
Right.
And long-term benefits because you're bathing in it every day instead of 20 minutes 3 times a week.
Right.
And so, it's a concentration level of you're sitting in a hollowed out thing of tufa versus you're working it. So it's not quite as intense, but it still has the exact same overall effect on a smaller scale. And what most people don't realize is they worry about chlorine, but they don't know why. They're like, yeah, chlorine's bad. It's going to kill you. Yeah. Why? Because it's going to kill you.
Can you tell us more?
What's happens is iodine is the binding agent that makes your thyroid work. And when the thyroid shuts down, that compromises your immune system. It shuts down your metabolism. It does all of those things. And so people gain weight, they become sick, they become tired, and it wears out the endocrine system. Well, chlorine competes for the binding site, iodine binding site in the thyroid. So that's why if you go to like a pool and you swim,
Okay.
you feel exhausted when you're in a pool that's got chlorine in it.
Right.
Because you literally just poison yourself. Now, you
Wow.
would never think to go grab your water bottle and take a whole quart or a liter of whatever, that water, and just drink right from the pool, right?
Yep, that's true.
You just wouldn't do it. But like even in the, like I said, with the new Dr. Michael videos, we're actually showing the chlorine absorption into the body. It takes you 60 seconds. I can fill this glass with tap water, stick my hand in it, and within 60 seconds, I've absorbed all the chlorine out of it into my body.
Gosh, never knew that.
And so, you know, your kids are out there. What you don't realize is your absorption rate is 1 quart.
Wow.
Little over a liter per every 10, 15 minutes. Right. So I'm not sure if you guys are gallons or liters, but you basically get as much chlorine as in a gallon of that pool water every hour you're in the water.
Wow.
So it just destroys the thyroid. So that's a really big piece of the puzzle. And so when we sell a lot of trifectas because we've got people with health issues. This is the #1 way we can rebuild their body and their endocrine system to prevent the toxic uptake.
Right. Jaber Al-Mazugi, I believe is from Dubai, asked how does it treat thyroid? Do you recommend this as a solution for treating thyroid, Dr. Michaels?
All of our thyroid, we use it for all of our patients. But like I said, what happens with the thyroid is it filters out chlorine. Right. But a lot of stuff filters out chlorine. This will get the trihalomethanes and the dissolved gases and stuff, chemicals and pollutants as well, because the filter is just insane. I mean, you've probably taken it out and been like, that's disgusting. But yeah, and so what happens is you're no longer putting in the chlorine, and then you're using this tufa mineral that helps heal the body.
Right.
So it's a critical piece, in my opinion, for getting people well.
So you are suggesting the Kangen water together with the NSPA, right? A combination, right?
I sell 90% trifectas, actually.
Wow.
So we sell the K8, the NSPA, and a year's supply of Ukon.
Wow. Guys, if you are fairly new on this show, a trifecta means buying 3 products from Enriched. So what Dr. Michaels is trying to tell you is he recommends the Kangen machine, whether it's a SD501 or the K8. The second one is for your shower because of the external effect and the chlorine and all that. Which is the NSPA, and the third one, which I believe Dr. Michael you'll be sharing, is on the Ukon, the turmeric.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to kind of finish up on the shower unit though. So, right. You know, my daughter was near death, so I tried the water, and I didn't buy a shower unit. I was still pretty stubborn, and we went to a friend's house.
Right.
And he's like, oh, well, you can use our shower in our master bedroom because it's got an NSPA. And I was just kind of like, that's a little weird, man. He goes, what, you don't use an NSPA? I'm like, and I never have showered at my friend's bathroom just because it's weird. He's like, no, man, just go in there. And so anyways, we go in there, and Abby's like, wow, this is incredible. And I was like, it's water. Well, it helped clear up her skin because she'd had adult acne issues for years. Right. And she said, we are buying one of those. And like every good husband, I go, you know how much they are? I don't care. It'll cost you a lot less than getting facials, everything. Okay, we'll buy it. Well, what happened is my hair had been falling out. Within just a few weeks of using the NSPA, my hair stopped falling out because the chlorine at the house was going down these hair follicles, and the chlorine was sterilizing the root.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really quite amazing. And you don't realize, like I said, if you go to the gym and you jump in the hot tub, it's got like, first you open the gate and it feels like you've just entered a gas chamber. But if you get in that water for 10 minutes, you just drank a quart of that water.
Wow. And many people don't see that, right?
It's crazy. So yeah, really dangerous. The turmeric, on the other hand, which is the Yukon that we were talking about, if you go to PubMed, NIH, whatever, and you just type in turmeric or curcumin, it'll blow your mind. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of articles. It's been researched for centuries. The problem with turmeric is you have to pull it out of the ground and eat it pretty quick, or it oxidizes. If you don't, you end up with an oxidized turmeric that doesn't really have the health potential. So the biggest issue is, like, if you go buy it at the store and you're like the spice, as soon as you open it, if you don't eat it all within 24, 48 hours, it's kind of over. And then, you know, with any of the capsules and supplements and all that stuff, they oxidize within the first couple of days. Right. So what Enagic did is they said, look, we've got this phenomenal product. We've got the perfect area to grow this stuff. So then I mean, you've been to the fields, right? They irrigate the fields, they process it with 11.5, they clean it with 2.5, and you know, and so they solved that problem. I personally really prefer the tea over anything. Wow. But I take the capsules, but I like the tea. When I drink the tea, I don't feel my age. I definitely never act my age, but I definitely don't feel my age. So I do a lot of the tea. Right. It's really crazy good. On the new, see, I've got separate videos. I've got like water, I've got a shower, I've got an Yukon, I've got a trifecta. We've got all the Dr. Michael Explains videos, but the new science research coming out for turmeric and curcuminoids, it's going to be killer.
Awesome.
Anyways, so that's literally the trifecta that we were just talking about. So I obviously drink my Yukon tea, and I have my water, and I take my shower in the Nespa. And that's literally why we recommend it as part of our health program. In fact, that's the whole reason that we've created what we call the Doctor's Water Manual. Okay. And we've put the whole thing together for healthcare providers to be able to go, look, this is the clinical application of what we need to be doing.